Islam. April 8th, Canaanland Moors. Today's class. Unconstitutional coercion contract. So, just so you know how it goes, right? So, Brother Polite was out here this weekend. Did a lecture. Actually, there was an African Book Expo, right? Organization out here put on this book expo, so we're vending at it. And Polite was here, did a lecture. So basically down to the end of the lecture, he starts talking about this black sovereignty to these people, right? These sheeple, to be honest with you, right? Because they were like clapping and stuff, right? Happy that they got some freedom as black people, because there's a guy who they see on YouTube, right? And then he's in their face now, and he's telling them that there's such a thing as black sovereignty, right? And they're buying it. They're just like, food's all falling out their mouth. They're just gluttoning right now. So, here's about this crap that these guys are talking about, UCCs, and using UCCs to go get your birthright, because these people ran this fraud on you, and birth certificates and stuff like that. All right? So, but, Noble Drew Ali said this is a divine and national movement, right? And Noble Drew Ali came for Negro black colored people who think that that's what they are. And he came to tell them that they're not what they thought they are, they're something else, right? And in order for him to do this, he had to be in the position or have some type of connection to a nation in order to fulfill this act, right? That he was initiating, right, between 1913 and 1929. So there's been things that have happened that get people in a state of being under some type of demonic worship or spirit or entity, or maybe they just have some wrong wiring in their head and doing stuff funny, because there's no way that people are going to call themselves conscious people, right, and claim that there's a thing called black sovereignty, that if you file this paper, you now become sovereign. And now because you're sovereign, you can do all these things that you weren't able to do before, because now you made a claim on this entity, this all capital letters name, right? So Noble Drew Ali came to correct everything, right? Got assassinated in 1929, and here we are, born into this, right? Wondering what's going on, right? And we go through all these different schools of thought, all lead to dead ends, and then we have to walk back all that way that we just walked in that school of thought. Now we got to walk back to the starting point now to try to find another way to go, because there's no shortcuts and stuff like that, right? So cleared up everything. So we're finding out about this now, 2000, 2001, 2002, 2003. I mean, if somebody found out about this 50 years ago, they're late. You know what I mean? So how late are we that we're just finding out, right? In this time, we're just finding out about this individual, right? And we're not even really getting the full scope, because ain't nobody talking, but you notice people getting stuff and people doing things because they're doing and studying what he brought, right? That's what they're doing. right? So-called Masons, Freemasons, are pretending to be Moors. And they pretend to be Moors so good that they got buildings with them in, you know what I mean, encased, wearing fezzes, the same Morocco and all this type of stuff. Not Europe, right? Not anything Catholic or Christian or nothing like that, right? Asiatic culture, they're practicing and exercising in secret, pretending to be Moors, right? Jews, Ashkenazi, who we know, woe unto those that call themselves Jews and are not, right? Woe unto them, because they're not really the Jews. Why? Because born Moorish birthright. To the point where you have to walk through Moor's Gate. Have to walk through Moor's Gate. If you never heard about Moor's Gate, Google Moor's Gate. So you see how serious the Moors are. Right? So sovereignty must be cleared up. But we already know black's an adjective, you know what I mean? We're not kindergarten people. But a lot of us maybe never heard of sovereignty or heard of it, but in some context or whatever, right? So we're going to go to lesson book number 14, Moore's Order of the Round Table, and read a little bit on sovereignty, so you can be clear as to what it is. So when you hear somebody say, so whatever, sovereign, and that's in the conversation, if it's not in line with what I'm reading right now, those people are opportunists and they're probably getting ready to go in your pockets. Matter of fact, their hand's already in your pocket. They're just waiting for you to acquiesce because you don't know better. Right? And again, you know, we're not showstoppers. You know what I mean? We're not the people that, you know, somebody has their show and then we're running up there to try to prove something. You know? But after, we're going to beat up all that crap that you were talking to these crazy people that's accepting this, that we've been out here. Right? And this man comes and stacks up his table with books and DVDs or whatever like that. You know what I'm saying? Because, why? Everybody knows that Toronto is the new conscious market. Everybody outside of Toronto knows that this is the new market. You know, you guys, you know, we out here are not some people in igloos or whatever. We have knowledge of stuff out here. Don't get it twisted. You hear about Canada, Toronto, and, you know, Saskatchewan and Manitoba and, you know what I mean, British Columbia, that there's dummies or something out here. You know what I mean? Like, some of us been on the studies since, you know, early 90s. So, you know what's up, right? This idea of people accepting black sovereignty as freedom is a fraud. And it's going to get people injured. And when they get injured, they're going to be too punk, right, to say that, hey, that guy injured me by selling me this crap that doesn't work for $1,700, $1,500, or whatever. Now remember, Prophet came 1913, did whatever he had to do or whatever. They got him out the way as soon as they can. Now you have people talking about there's something called black sovereignty that people could actually buy into, literally, and then be free, right? Sovereignty is the supreme absolute power by which a free and independent people or state is governed. It is the self-authority of a people, unencumbered by another foreign nation or people. The opposite of sovereignty is slavery and dependence. Right? So this is what happens. They say sovereignty for black people. And then everybody says, yeah, let's go. And then everybody goes and they end up slaves to that individual. Only thing, it's not about making you drink the Kool-Aid. It's all about getting you to pay him to file some papers for you to be free. That you're going to get those papers and not even read them anyways. Because you think these papers is what's going to save you. And you just show this. All the rest of the pages could be blank. Ask how much people. I asked them more yesterday. Yo, you ever read your nationality paperwork? How much people do you think read their nationality paperwork that they got? Read it maybe about 50 times. Few. I bet you. And I bet you the few that read their nationality paper, they don't get into all this crazy trouble that you hear other Moors getting into. Everything for them runs smooth. Why? Because Noble Ali said this is divine and it's national. So they're not going to play around with this. They'll be enslaving people, doing the opposite of sovereignty, but calling it black sovereignty. The fact that it's called black enslaves the people. Forget the 1700s. Sovereignty is the self-sufficient birthright source of political power of a people. All specific political power is derived from it. Sovereignty is the internationally recognized independence of a people or state, having the right to make law, trade, conduct commerce, impose and collect taxes, make war or peace, make treaties with other foreign nations, etc. Sovereignty is the inalienable power and authority of a people or state, politically united people, to make laws for the governing of their own lands, resources, people, and affairs, not dictated to or enslaved by a foreign nation, people, or occupational forces. When a nation is occupied or usurped by an alien colony of people or nation, its government is referred to as de facto. All right? So if Europeans came here and started government, and in their history books, they don't talk about anybody else having government here, but when you read the logs of the ship captains, you're hearing that they saw people here, gold-tip spears, riding animals, paved streets, traffic lights, sewage, all that. Right? You have to go with the common sense part that, okay, well, these people are obviously not some savages, grass skirts, a bone in the nose, running around naked and all that. That wasn't what was going on over here. These were sophisticated people. These were intelligent people. And if they were that intelligent, they would have a government here. So when a nation is occupied or usurped, which is what our position is, right? Which is why we understand as Moors who study nationality and birthrights, we understand that we're under occupation. Our nation's under occupation. And being that we're under occupation, things aren't going to be running smooth. There's going to be, speed bump roadway every 10 kilometers of speed bump. Right? So you're not going to worry about blazing your Ferrari down the street because you'll probably be walking, because Ferrari is a waste of time with 20 speed bumps. Right? Now, it's because of the occupation, right? There's certain things that are happening that our people would call, racism and all these things, right? Issues that they got, economic issues, social issues, whatever, right? We understand, and then you get inspired because someone says that there's a way out of that, right? Like we understand that we're facing some times right now, and something has to kick off for us to get out of this. You know what I mean? Something. Give us anything. Give us a little bit of rain in this drought, because we've been in a drought it's a miracle we're still alive right now after all the stuff we've been through. right? But we're still here to no end. So we know that there's an issue, but there's a solution. But some people are choosing to sell the solution, opposed to just give it to the people, right? And this is where you come into the de facto position of people who are claiming sovereignty. Because you can't talk about sovereignty if you're not connected to a nation, right? Okay? I'm gonna get to that question a little bit later, since it's right there, right? So Article 1, Section 10 of the Constitution, right? No state shall enter into any treaty, alliance, or confederation, grant letters of marque and reprisal, coin money, emit bills of credit, make anything but gold and silver coin a tender in payment of debts, pass any bill of attainder, ex post facto law, or law impairing the obligation of contracts, or grant any title of nobility. Okay? Now, these people are trying to convince you that there's this thing called black sovereignty. So let's say you're black and you went to school. You know what I mean? You got, student loan or something, and you owe somebody now, right? They're gonna say, well, because it's black, whatever, right? Sovereignty that you can buy from me, right? We'll file these papers, you file some papers, and then we'll get you to get them to discharge your student loan so you don't have to pay it back, right? And yeah, everybody got student loans. It sounds amazing. It sounds like the thing to do because, it doesn't seem illegal. I mean, it's a debt, and if I can't pay the debt, then you can discharge it. All right, cool. I could go with it, right? Cool. But if you're not tied to a nation and you're doing that, you're treasonous. If you say you're a black sovereign and you decide to go discharge some debt because you filed some papers, right, that somebody sold you the idea of filing these papers, you're treasonous, because the Constitution says no state shall make anything but gold and silver coin a tender in payment of debts. So the better argument isn't go discharge it. The better argument is prove the debt. Because if you're talking about a loan, then you probably didn't give me anything. There was nothing that changed hands. So I didn't get anything tangible. Right? But again, you can't make that claim as a black sovereign because you're in violation. Because there's no such nation called black nation that has anything called black sovereignty. It's a fraud in order to get in your pockets through the black crap. That back in the day, right? Just like people didn't want to get called nigger, they'll fight you. They'll fight you if you call them Negro or if you call them black, right? Because you grew up in the islands, you don't play black and stuff like that. That wasn't part of the culture, right? Like that wasn't part of the culture. We didn't call ourselves black people, and our country, our so-called islands, right, were known and recognized as republics, all of them. Right? So that's why you realize that people from the islands get this easier, because their system is already based in indigenous culture, even after colonization, because they still have everything growing right there. You know what I mean? All they do was take over all the coastal lines to make beaches, quote unquote resorts, And then that's how they get their fiat outside of America. Go ask anybody that lives on the islands if their island has a resort on it along the coastal line that is not owned by anybody who is from that island right there. Owned by a foreigner, right? Taking their birthright. Same thing they're doing over here, just different form. Just so we can see everybody's in the same boat, right? Caught in this position, right? And we know that it's something by design. It's not just happen, just whatever. We know it's by design, right? But we're the ones that gave the blueprint of the design. So we can't pretend black sovereignty, because everybody knows that we're Moors, which goes back again. Let me put this on the record. If you hear somebody talking about Moors, right, and they're not saying they're Moorish American, they're saying they're something else other than Moorish American, don't connect them to Noble Drew Ali. Right? And you hear people talk about, ish and more issues, and because we're not whatever, and don't say that, those people are against the Prophet. Right? Because simply, there's Moors all over the goddamn planet. Moors isn't something new just because we found it out yesterday. There's Moors all over the planet. But we're not any of those Moors, even though we're relative in both contexts. In the context of family or in the context of, affiliated. We're relative. Right? And we are the Moors specific to North America, which includes Canada and everything else going up. We are those Moors. And Mexico. We're the Moorish Americans. That's our jurisdiction. The Moorish American jurisdiction is that. Just like the Moros jurisdiction is Philippines. And Mauryan jurisdiction is Hindustan, Ceylon, Pakistan, etc. Right? The Moorish American jurisdiction is North America. Right? Just to clear that up so you're clear that people who follow Noble Drew Ali is not swaying because of foolishness. Because we have an estate. We have freedom, but we don't want it. We want to go get this guy to go file some papers for you to be free and then say that you're not a slave. Really? You think the judge is buying that? When you went and filed some paper? That you say that you're sovereign, but you and paid to file a paper. I thought you're sovereign. What are you paying for? Right? And it's not that sovereigns don't pay. But the whole idea of doing that process is to say that you don't need nothing from them, because supreme absolute power by which a free independent people or state is governed. It is the self-authority of a people. Okay, so if you're taking self-authority, then why you need to go file something with them? Why don't you just file it in your own whatever you created? Oh, we can't do that because they're not following the Prophet. They're going to make up something and then say that's a tribe of something for you to come think that, yeah, we did the test and got the blood, and then that's how I know that I'm whatever. It doesn't, whatever anybody says is boo if it didn't come from the Prophet. Because he's the heir here of this estate for us. Nobody else. Don't try to put anybody, put them in Noble Drew Ali's shoes and stupidness like that. And I'm not talking about some spooky worshiping some guy and all that. I'm talking about the reason why he came and what he brought, not him. Forget him. We're not talking about the man. Right? We're talking about the essence of the man. Forget the physical appearance. We're not talking about physical appearance. We're talking about what he brought. That's why he told the Moors, right? That's why he told the Moors. The wealth of all national governments, gold and silver and commerce belong to the citizens alone. So if the prophet, not just some guy, religious guy with a red hat, the prophet, Noble Drew Ali, said to the Moors, Moorish Americans, Indians, blacks, Negro, colored, whoever they want to call themselves, told all of them and everybody in the world, the wealth of all national governments, gold and silver and commerce belong to the citizens alone. Right? Do your research. Just check it out for yourself. Just ask around. Do your research on nations other than the people who are so-called called black and white people, right? That go file some paper to be sovereign and then paying a foreigner to go file that paper. Go ask them. And see if they don't laugh in your face. Right? They're going to go file some paper because this guy said there's a thing called black sovereignty, and you never even look up sovereignty to see what that is, what that means. You just rush off, clapping like seals. Right? Like, really? That's where we're at right now? People are buying some black sovereignty right now? You're going to go get a book. It's online, free, by David McPherson, MacPherson. The History of European Commerce with India. Go check that one. Remember, the wealth of all national governments, gold and silver and commerce, belong to the citizens alone. So if the gold and the silver and the commerce belong to the citizens alone, why are the citizens taking a position of listening to this guy who's going to tell them that they can go file some papers with these people called UCC, right? Which means Uniform Commercial Code. Then commercial means commerce. But those people who have it and telling you to pay them to file some paper so you can engage in commerce the right way aren't the prophet. So the prophet said everything belongs to the citizens alone. They're not citizens because UCC, that's corporate. But our people like to get gain, right? Our people like to complain about their broke, but they'll pay for a get out of jail free card instead of go study to know what's up, right? Rex 84, Operations Research Technical Manual, TW SW 7905.1. Just to put something on the record too. When I've heard people, right, talk about King Alfred Plan being, a fraud and it was in some fiction book and it's not real or whatever, right? That's why we put out Technical Manual TWSW 7905.1, because what happens is that people, because they don't think, right, they'll just go online, punch in King Alfred Plan, nothing came up, You know what I mean? Or everything that comes up leads me back to RV Bay. So I can't use it as a legitimate source for anything because it only keeps going there. And Ray Hagan's video. All right? Look up TWSW7905.1 and see how much Europeans are talking about that. And they call it silent weapons for quiet wars. Something like that, whatever. Right? That's what they call it. They don't call it King Alfred Plan. But they call it something totally different. Why? To keep you not knowing what's going on. Right around you under your nose, you don't even know what's going on. Why? Because this is a divine and national movement. And if the higher self isn't resonating with the lower self and there being a balance, right? And then from there you go to your higher self, but you have to hit ground zero first. Not just come into this and then think you're going to shoot up to being adept or whatever like that. That ain't what this is. You better get to the studying. Because studying changes your mind frame. Studying completely changes your mind frame. And once you're studying from the right sources, then your perspective would be clear. That's why we tell people, don't move from RV Bay. Do a 2-year bid on RV Bay before you go looking and searching for information about, you know what I mean? Oh yeah, rvbaypublications.com. Right? rvbaypublications.com. Do your, okay, say, if you're a fast reader, you could probably do a year bid on RV Bay Publications. Right? And be clear. Don't get the information and go try something tomorrow. These people don't play, huh? Brother got kidnapped last night. Brother got kidnapped last night. I didn't hear about it today. Right? And Drawley told the Moors, Moors will learn at the point of a sword. And people just, give Noble Drawley like the, get around him. Right? And you're not getting around him. Can't get around him. Right? And the reason why I brought up the Moorish American thing is because the brother was in there, right? Behind the bars, and then he's on the other side, they're on the other side, and they're building. And he's giving them class or whatever. And some guy passed and heard Moorish American, and he turned back and he said, yo, what? What did that guy say he is? And they told him, he said he's Moorish American. The guy took the guy, pulled him over, right? Whatever, told him something, and came back, let this man out. That just happened last night, right? Just because the brother who that happened to for, 10, 15 years or whatever, he's been on Reiki and stuff like that. That was his school of thought. You know how people have the NOI school of thought and the Wapian school of thought and the, the Nation of God's Earth and the Black whatever? Okay. Well, his school of thought was Reiki. Nothing to do with black, white, nothing gay, nothing like that. That was his school of thought. And when he got this information, it automatically resonated in him mentally. Automatic. That, oh yeah, this is, so if I'm not that stuff, oh yeah, so this is who I really am. And then, and then you go and then you buy your fez and then you put your fez on and then you get this little, vibration thing going on or whatever. Because that's how divine this is. This is real serious. It's real serious. Like, this is real serious. This is more serious than people even imagine. Also, I imagine it is. I ain't seen nothing yet. And I've seen some stuff with regard to this, right? So the diversion is the primary strategy, right? Like we talk about disassociation. The diversion, the deep, right, is the right, the crossover, the killer crossover is the primary strategy, right? Once they get you with the killer crossover, then like you're done. You're downtown, you might get shot, you might get whatever, right? Experience has prevent that the simplest method of securing a silent weapon and gaining control of the public is to keep the public undisciplined and ignorant of the basic system principles on the one hand, while keeping them focused, disorganized, and distracted with matters of no real importance on the other hand. Right? So keep them undisciplined and ignorant. Right? Which is like, oxymoron kind of. But keep them not be able to gain momentum, undisciplined. You know what I mean? You're not, it's a process, right? So if they can slow down the process, then they can do things on the other hand to make, right, things go on their side, while it seems like they're stalled on our side, when they're not really stalled, right? It's just moving at a pace so slow that we can't see that it's moving. So this is achieved by disengaging their minds, sabotaging their mental activities, providing a low-quality program of public education in mathematics, logic systems, design and economics, and discouraging technical creativity. Now, let me stop here for a second. So during the presentation, and we're gonna post it up, but you already know how we do, right? So you'll be able to see it for yourself, right? Now, we talked about this in earlier classes, but just bringing this up to the point, right? A few years ago, in this jurisdiction, right, the so-called city of Toronto, there was a few quote-unquote Afrocentric independent schools, right? The usual, they're not getting the full support that they can get, the little support that they could get from their own people, right? Because, they're not taking no grants or nothing like that. We want this to be strictly owned by us, our people, whatever, So they did their thing for a few years, and then all of a sudden, the school board, started up a quote-unquote Afrocentric school, right? That's going to be free. So, obviously, it's fiat game. So whoever couldn't spend the fiat took their children to the Afrocentric school, right? So now I'm hearing that the people in the Afrocentric school are mad now because they got rid of the good principal and brought in some other one, and they do this, and they're doing that, and the complaining is going on, right? Because they want to do the black thing, right? So this man's here, telling them, yeah, um, you guys got to get your children out of those schools and whatever. And I'm hearing people clapping like this is the first time they ever heard this. You know what I mean? When, we had, big up to Brother Sankofa too, right? Brother Sankofa and myself and a few other fam, right? Put some funds together to bring Autumn Ashanti and Bettina Ashanti here, right? It's on YouTube. You can go look at it yourself, right? And Bettina Ashanti is talking about getting the people to get their children out of these schools because, look at my daughter as the example. Or that you could do the homeschool. You know what I mean? And you go to university and everything like that. You know what I mean? Like, you could do the homeschool. Not an issue. You just have to make some sacrifices or whatever, right? And I'm hearing people clapping like they never heard this before. Like this is something new to them. You know what I mean? All these lecturers been up here, been told y'all get your children out them schools. Y'all still clapping and haven't taken your children out them schools yet? Right? So the program of public education, being of a low quality, is to get the people's vibration on such a low state from their children, because remember school we're talking about, so that they automatically just fit the mold. Right? Engaging their emotions, increasing their self-indulgence and their indulgence in emotional and physical activities by unrelenting emotional affrontations and attacks, mental and emotional rape, by way of constant barrage of sex violence and wars in the media, especially the TV and newspapers, giving them what they desire in excess, junk food for thought, and depriving them of what they really need. Rewriting history and law, and subjecting the public and the deviant creation, thus being able to shift their thinking from personal needs to highly fabricated outside priorities. Rewriting history and law, right? Remember, this is Technical Manual TWSW 7905.1. So, in this document that is, oh yeah, and when you go onto all these websites that have this document on it, like I'm saying, you realize that it's all these Europeans that are so-called, studying, bringing back the Constitution and being constitutional, right? But they forgot that all the states are dissolved, right, since 1933. So they're technically committing a fraud, but, them being able to label that as a negative, right, would kind of backfire on people taking the Moorish perspective serious, because when you go research it, it's kind of the same information, but it's not. Why? Because they have no status, and we do. They're just flapping gums. Because all the states are dissolved. So where are you getting this sovereignty from that you're claiming? So there's no black sovereignty, and there's no white patriot whatever sovereignty. Because the only sovereignty that they got is from the states, which are sovereigns because they're republics. But if the states have been dissolved since 1933, then they have no sovereignty called from a state. So they're stateless too. That's why they're getting what they're getting right now. And you put, putting flowers in a barrel or whatever, getting gun butt and all this type of stuff, and it's screwing about, oh, my rights you violated. Yeah, because you're supposed to proclaim your nationality too, and help in the uplifting acts. Because we already know, ain't nothing European gonna save anybody on the planet. It's gonna be everybody going back to what the Asiatics used to do. That's why everybody's doing yoga right now, and everybody's exercising and keep themselves fit. And Dr. Oz is telling people, organic stuff you can eat, get wrinkles away and all this type of stuff. What do you think that is? They're practicing more science. They're practicing more science, selling you your birthright that you don't want. And if we do get it, we want to buy it from some guy so he could file some papers, right? So we could be free, right? And then remember, when you're coming into this information, there's no history and law. It's history and law is the same thing. There's no history over here and then law over here. So I have to go over here and study the law. And then when I come back over here, I got to study the history in order to get a clear, no. Right? Because remember that this game that they're playing called UCC filing, right? This game that they're playing. You better have a nationality before you go file that paper. You better. And because you're filing your papers in the jurisdiction of the Moors, that's better be who you're affiliated with when you file that paper. Don't try to proclaim my nationality to some tribe because you did a blood test. Because you're a fraud. So everybody knows, like we always say, that this is Morocco over here. Maghreb al-Aqsa. Just go ask somebody who speaks Arabic. Just go ask them, what's Maghreb? Morocco. Which one? One in North Africa. So what's Maghreb al-Aqsa? Oh, that's West Morocco. But Morocco is north. You mean West Morocco. And then see where a conversation goes from there. Right? Because remember, all these people know what's up, huh? We're the only ones that's been left in the dark. Right? We're the only ones that's been left in the dark. Everybody else knows. Right? So this is for all the people out there who say, yeah, you know, UCCs and, you know, let's do that stuff. Right? Remember, we're not talking about people who are nationals and decide to go do some stuff with the UCCs. We're not talking about those people. Don't think we're hating on UCCs because we know that comes from Moorish merchant law. Right? So it's not, don't get it twisted like that. Just like, you know, we show that this city is listed on Dun & Bradstreet as a corporation, right? And then people are going to say, oh, well, the Moorish Science Temple is listed on Dun & Bradstreet. Okay, that's your point. Well, it's listed on Dun & Bradstreet, so that means that it's owned by, no it doesn't. Dun & Bradstreet is just listing. We're corporations, organizations. We're just showing the point that the place that you call municipal government is listed on there to prove to you that it's not a government. That's why we show it. We're not showing it because Dun & Bradstreet's wrong, right? Just like corporations aren't wrong. Nothing's wrong with corporations. It's about who set it up, who's running it, is what's right or wrong with the corporation. Right? So when we're talking about UCCs, this is how we're talking about UCCs. We're not talking about people who are nationals, who study and become what they know and then start exercising whatever they want to exercise. We're not talking about those people. We're talking about people who buy this idea or buy into this idea or this thought that you can file some paper somewhere and that's going to make you sovereign and free to do whatever it is that you claim you want to do. Right? Those are the idiots that we're going for. Right? Because majority of them are our people. Right? Who want to try to be down with something that works. This is not a works thing. This is nationality and birthrights. And it'll work when you're it. When you realize that you're the authority, you're going to stop going and giving the notary your fiat. When you realize that you're the authority, you're going to stop going and filing something at some county that has nothing to do with you. Because this is birthrights. When you are nationality and birthrights, you're not worried about what's going on in the contract and is this contract legitimate, because you know how to live within contracts. And if you never heard the term living in contracts or knowing how to live in contracts or the phrase, you need to go study. Because you better know how to live within contracts and the rules that govern contracts before you're going to go put your name on a contract that somebody's telling you is a filing, right? That only you sign and nobody else signs in order to be free, that you pay for. And not only did you pay the people who you're filing it with, you also pay the individual who put you on. And then when you go check, because, remember, people don't study, right? So when you go and check the UCC filing fees, the most of this is $30. So hold on a second. So $30 to file a UCC 1. And the person who put you on is charging you $1,500 to file the thing that costs $30. What are you paying for? What are you paying $1,400 for? Like, this is the game that they're running on people. Yo, this man was talking about black sovereignty. People were clapping. People were clapping like church. Right? People were clapping like church. You think that it's not that? Because that individual who sold you your package, he just became your savior. He just became your Lord. Oh, and another one. You're going to know a lot of these trumps because they're going to have some type of title, like chief on their name, or, you know what I mean, to imply that they have this power. But there's no power there. Why? Power is an illusion. Muhammad Ali taught the Moors that. So anybody saying that they have power, black power, right? They don't have nothing. Power is an illusion. So all they have is black. Right? The posse comitatus, from the Latin phrase meaning force of the country, is a loosely organized far-right social movement that opposes the federal government of the United States and believes in localism. There is no single national group, and local units are autonomous. Some of these religious posse members are associated with the identity churches, which believe, among other things, that Jews are the spawn of Satan and that blacks are not humans at all, but animals in disguise. The sovereign citizen movement gave rise to the redemption movement, which claims that the U.S. government has enslaved its citizens by using them as collateral against foreign debt. Redemption scheme promoters sell instructions explaining how citizens can free themselves by filing particular government forms in a particular order using particular wording. The movement has earned its promoters untold profits, buried courts and other agencies under tons of worthless paper, and led to scores of arrests and convictions. So that's what you're getting yourself into when you start meddling with people filing stuff and you don't understand what nationality is, status is, birthrights is, inalienable rights, unalienable rights. You don't know what those are? Don't be going out there paying nobody for anything to go file anything anywhere. Don't do it, because you're going to be sorry. You're going to be so sorry. right? And then you can do your research on Lex, Lex, MER, right? MER, CATORIA, Lex Mercatoria. I'm trying not to read the first thing that you see or whatever, right? So the selling point, right? So the selling point for this idea, right? Because trust me, like you can go back and check or whatever, and you'll see how low the hits on classes are, compared to other foolishness that's out there. Just whatever classes, any Moors that are active that are doing any classes, you're gonna see their stuff's kind of low, right? Now, being that we don't control that, that might not really be the numbers that's there. You know what I'm saying? Maybe people are, playing with numbers or whatever. So we're gonna have to, you know, go on the fact that maybe they tampered with it, and thousands, millions of people are watching this, right? So we know that this time right now is a time of people coming into enlightenment, right? And people are coming into enlightenment at warp speed right now. And being that they're coming into enlightenment at warp speed, they need to slow themselves down. Because warp speed into something physical is not going to be too good, right? On behalf of the one going warp speed, right? There's a there's a mastery. There's a mastery to people who sell packages. Right? There's a mastery. There's a way that they word things so that you're not considering going to check it out. Right? Check out what that word is. What do they mean when they say that word right there? You know what I mean? This goes back to, doing your time, right? Doing your dead time, doing your year in the hole on rvbaypublications.com so you can be clear, right? It's not a boosting thing. That's just, you're not getting any information out there, right, that would clear you like that site. Why? Because it's not just one individual putting up information. It's information from other individuals, right, who are on that same frequency. You know what I'm saying? So you'll be cleared up real fast if you're open here. If you're open, you'll clear up fast. Immediately. You'll get down with what Noble Drew Ali ordered people to get down with. Not because he's giving orders, but because judgment's coming. And Allah told him, you better go let those people know you need to stop playing around, huh? Because, like I was talking to a brother last night, and, we're, our people are the next person in line at the guillotine, talking about, oh, man, I scuffed my shoes or whatever, right? It's over for them. If we don't get them, then Rome is going to do what they got to do, right? That's why we're doing this, because after what I seen on Sunday, our people are out of it. They're out of it. Our people are out of it. And we need to go get the young ones and bring them up to speed fast, because these ones, whatever your age is and older, they ain't coming out of what they're in. And the ones that do, that's a trickle. So we need to recognize that it's our own that's gaming us. why we're in this situation, right? It's our own that's gaming us. And what's our own doing? Our own's going with things that come from people who think that blacks are not humans at all, but animals in disguise. That's the stuff they're chasing. When they have a prophet that came to them and brought them everything that it takes to save a nation, but they don't want that. They want to go file some papers with some guy, right? To be free. And you're paying for it. So the sovereignty selling point. So what I'm going to read is the theme, right, of how these individuals that are pushing this idea of, by sovereignty, right, how they'll speak. It's like trust me, that you know how many so-called European sovereignty groups there are? Forget what these Jewish League, whatever, that got their website talking about sovereigns and whatever. You just go check for yourself and see how much different websites of these people studying this information, right? But none of them ever talk about status, right? They talk about it. Oh yeah, the government fraud and bank fraud and constitutional fraud and statutes and codes and whatever, and they dance all over and show all this frivolous stuff. But then nobody talks about status. None of them talk about status. And if they do talk about status, they're children of God, and they're connected to their Lord Jesus Christ and all this. Right? So they have, based on them having no status, there's a mentality that goes with talking this sovereignty talk. Like, yeah, I want to be sovereign. Okay, well, just go over there and get some sovereignty and then we'll be sovereign together type. That doesn't exist. And anybody selling that is a fraud, and they're about to rape you. Their hands in your pocket already. They haven't said any words to you yet, and their hands in your pocket. That's how tight they got it. Right? Owner, slave, and master. A straw man serves its owner, master, with slavish devotion. But the vast majority of you do not even know that you have one. Right? So they rule you in, right? If you lack this key perception, you may assume you are his owner, but you will never be the master. Herein lies the concept that will free you of worry and personal liability in operating virtual corporations. Use is the new key perception, as use preempts ownership. So it's not really ownership, right? It's not really that you're sovereign. It's exercising sovereignty disguised as yours, right? So it's not really sovereignty. Like, they're telling you that it's not sovereignty, but again, if we don't look up sovereignty and title and certificate and these things to know what they are, we're just going to read this based on what we have in our mind as what we think those things are. When majority of what they're talking about is law terms. And the concept, right? The concept is they have jurisdiction to talk about this because they know. And then we adopt that, right? When they don't have jurisdiction to talk about these matters because they're foreign. So the only way they can talk about these matters is if they do it under the jurisdiction of the people who are already here. So they would have to be talking birthright, not selling the package, right? If they're going to talk this way, right, about straw men and things like that, they can't talk about those stuff because they're stateless. They don't have a status to even bring up the word contract. Look what happened to Dred Scott because of his name being Scott, right? The whole straw man fraud is for them, for the Europeans. We just happen to be caught up in it, but the real straw man for us is Negro, black, colored, Ethiopian, African. That's the real straw man. The birth certificate has nothing to do with us. So, you're going to hear them talk like strawman service owner or whatever. But you do not know that you don't have one. Right? They're talking to Europeans. They're not talking to Asiatics. Because Asiatic can't claim that they own the strawman or that they bought it or traded something for it. Because it's not your property. It wasn't created by you. You're just attached to it. They're just a hook on you. When you have your nationality, you take the hook out. Or you could, hook it on something now. It doesn't have to be in you. You're dragging it around like it has some benefit to you. Right? So they speak like you're a straw man. Right? And then we adopt those practices, but we apply it to the license. So we have our license and our passport and our whatever. Just like El Haj said, our house, we sick, right? Which means you have slave mentality. Because that stuff isn't your property, but you're claiming it like it's yours. So being that you're claiming this property that somebody else's as yours, all they have to do is claim that you stole something. You stole their stuff. And then they come after you. Right? So remember, there's a way that it sounds. As soon as you hear somebody talking about birth certificates and social insurance numbers, and then say your, automatically, you have to lean back in the chair and, just take the information for what you might get out of it. Because when he's talking about your birth certificate, they're pulling you in a jurisdiction you don't want to be in. Right? It is time you get to know this fellow and set things straight. Most people understand that the law is very precise, with legalized deadly violence attached to the words appearing in the text of the codes that are enforced by both courts and police. The code is the law. The private forum of the UCC, Uniform Commercial Code, offers such a remedy. It is not intended to be a cure for all legal woes and does not pretend to be anything other than a work in progress for legal self-discovery. For thousands of years, the powers that be have been steadfastly constructing a system by which world law and commerce operate. Right? So, they know that it's a system. Right? Because the real system of trade would be us bartering with each other. Having our own stuff. Oh yeah, remember, because nobody really did that. And we had our own manufacturing company, and you wouldn't have to be worrying about getting some benefits, right, from some state people, and then you don't want to nationalize because you don't want to lose your benefit because, you know, if I lose my benefit, then I can't, whatever. You know, blame Dirty Morris for that, right? Don't get mad at, oh yeah. And at this lecture, I never heard so much black man and white man from somebody conscious in a very long time. Black man and white man was the theme of the day, not even the black sovereignty. Been a long time since I heard so much black man and white man by someone who's a student of Dr. Malachi York, who told us that we're Moors, right? Those operating the system have achieved their preeminence by knowing the foundational principles and encrypting them into codes for their own benefit, while confusing the masses and keeping them ignorant of such real law and how to employ it correctly. Remember, these Europeans that are going filing this UCC 1 or whatever like that, they're straw. They're stateless people. They're stateless people. They don't have any tie to over here. The only tie that they have to over here is if they follow the law of the land, the supreme law of the land. That's the only way that they can be here. If they're not doing that, then they shouldn't be here doing anything. But they're here doing stuff because, you know, we don't want to recognize what's up. Just like I'm saying, the so-called policy enforcer told the brother, well, you said you're what? You're Moorish American. Pulled the freaking guy over and told him something. And whatever, we'll see you on your court date. Right? Protocols within the code. A workman is worthy of his hire. Right? So that's where they get the idea of a $30 thing coming up to a bill of $1,400. Because they're selling the idea that, you know, well, you know, this is I think now, I'm not even going to put the name out there for y'all to be going and running him down because he has done the process and it actually does work and all that, but he had a nationality when he did it, right? But that brother is telling me that his paperwork's like 80 pages or something like that. Because in going into that jurisdiction, you have to know what you're doing. You have to know what you're doing. You can't assume you know because somebody put you on. You will get injured. You will get kidnapped by these same people who you filed the paper with, and then all of a sudden, they don't respect your claim that you're making. Right? Because what do you do in filing the UCC 1? You're saying you're making a claim that that thing there is yours. That's yours, yeah. All right? Similar to out here. When Moors were going to the ministry, right, to get the property, right, the Ministry of Transportation, which used to deal with the driving licenses and all that, right? In order to get his name off of the ownership, right, he would have to go to the person who had the car before him to get them to get their name off the ownership and put it there so that when they take his name off, there's somewhere for it to go. Because the ownership's gone through so much hands that you know, in the computer, it'll say you're the owner, and then it'll say the owner before you, and then the owner before you, and then the owner before you. So if you take your name off of that, right, and just leave it as is, the ownership falls on that person who was before you, even if you took your name off it and made a claim on the property. So when they stop you and they check the VIN number and they realize that the VIN number matches up with their computer, that it's owned by this other guy over here, who you might have already talked to and whatever, worked out everything, right? That's their property. So you can't claim it now, right? That's the same thing with the birth certificate. That if you claim it, as soon as you go to court and say that you claim that, you're in contempt. Why? Because you stole blatantly. You said you claimed that. And they know that you didn't create that straw man. And they know that your name's not the name that you filed that paperwork in because you thought there was such a thing as black sovereignty. So you don't need to, you know, oh, well, you're a black guy, so my name's Jeffrey Johnson, so I'm going to go file this paper as Jeffrey Johnson. And you sign it. And you sign it, which goes back to how to live within contracts, right? And don't worry about, oh, where could I get that book? No, this is common knowledge. That's out there. How to live within contracts. And you'll find stuff out there about how to live within contracts. But just remember that whatever it is that you go out there and go study, you better have nationality etched in your mind so when you go to those places, you don't get lost in the trickery. Because there is going to be trickery. Bona fide trickery. Not even, right? Like serious trickery. That, trust me, if you're not careful, and, you know, like we say, we get reached out to, right? Whether it's on the phone, at the temple, whether it's my personal phone, like, we get calls out here. And 40% of the calls we get are people complaining about somebody out there that gamed them for something. 40%. Like 40% of the people that are coming into this information that we connect with, they're saying that they came and made the call because something just doesn't seem right with these people over here that I'm dealing with, that I've been dealing with for the past year, 2 years, 6 months, 5 years, whatever, because they don't talk how you talk. They don't talk how the stuff I read on RV Bay. Like, there's a big discrepancy here. You know what I mean? There's an issue, right? Why is there an issue? Because dirty Moors who taught Moors. And now you have sincere Moors with dirty thoughts, and here we are, and claiming, oh yeah, we need unity or whatever, when unity is on the top of your nationality card. What are you talking about, we need unity? Nobody brought everything. And anybody saying that, you know, well, you know, Noble Drew Ali is a butt already. Draw the line between you and them, and, you know what I mean, touch that person with a stick. Right? And again, stressing the point that this is not some worshiping some man bullshit. Like, that's not what this is. This is not some religious, you know, dogma, chase this guy around, wear sevens because he was on the 7 cross and stupid shit like that. Right? This is birthrights. This is what everybody else in the world knows and has, which is why they're laughing at our people. Because we're going to go buy some package from some guy to be black sovereigns. When we can't even prove that we're black people. Because there's people darker than us that don't call themselves black people. but we're not buying it. And we think we can buy freedom. Freedom ain't free, but you don't pay for it. Tell you that. Freedom ain't free, but don't think that you have to put down fiat to be free. Right? And again, keep in mind, and forget about going out there to try to find the Moor who, did the UCC right so you can go do it. Don't even go there. Right? Because if he took 50 hours or whatever, study time to go find out how to do whatever, then you go do that too. Like no Moors want to be going and go try find that individual, those group of Moors that, filed the UCC one right and they're getting checks and they're getting whatever, they're discharging and all whatever. They know what they're doing. That's why they can do that. They're not following nothing. They're masters of fruition. They're not believers. Believers get lost. Clapping at a guy who came all the way from New York to tell you that you need to get your children out of the public school system. And you guys clapping. People here been telling our people that. And y'all even clapping for them. Not even giving them props. Right? Not gonna bring people from all over freaking North America to come here to tell you about some black stuff. And you're buying it. And then Moors are here getting calls from Barbados and from Colorado, and they wish they could live in Canaanland so they can have a temple. And people here are talking about they're not getting down with this because what? Because they heard Kudro's an agent. Me, I'm an agent. If I'm an agent, then something's definitely wrong with these people. Right? So filing a UCC 1. Right? So again, remember how they talk. So as soon as I start reading, right, when I get a certain part, like stuff should just be, okay, bam, there's the fraud, so we don't have to deal with this. Oh, bam, there's the fraud again, bam, so we don't have to even deal with this. Right? By the way they talk, there's a tone that they're talking. Like, we're giving up the goods right now. We're letting you know what they use to swindle you. Like, we're giving up the secrets in the code of what these individuals say. So you can know when they're gaming you by just putting, they put Indigenous on it, or they put Aboriginal on it, or they put, Atsikahata, Bata Nation, and, whatever. Right? They flower it up to make it not appear to be your boys who think blacks are not human at all, but animals in disguise. The sovereign citizen movement gave rise to the redemption movement. The whole UCC, whatever, all that stuff is the redemption movement. That's not the sovereign citizen movement. The sovereign citizen movement are people who enforce the Constitution. That's the sovereign citizen movement, as far as Europeans are concerned. The thing that you think is the sovereign citizen movement is really the redemption movement. Right? And the redemption movement is the ones that these so-called conscious black guys are going to get information with regard to the law and how to, exercise and whatever like that. And none of them are talking about status. They're trying to convince you that you can be stateless and go file these contracts, right? Without reserving your rights. On top of that, not only go do the contracts, but go do the contracts without reserving your rights, which proves that you have no nationality. Because Moors have been doing that for so long that they know that that's standard. As soon as they see that, they know what's up. Right? And what do they always do? Try to connect it back to the sovereign redemption, whatever movement, that we have to say no. We have no connection to that, right? So filing a UCC financing statement. Filing a UCC financing statement is the filing of a legal document into the public as evidence of you regaining control over your agent in commerce, your strawman. It has been abandoned on the sea of Admiralty, where it was salvaged by government and big corps to use for their own gain and benefit. By filing the document, you are noticing the state, the public, that you are regaining rightful control over the strawman, birth certificate name, for your benefit and not the state's, and that you are now no longer delinquent. By filing, you also show that you are the secured party and principal creditor to the strawman, vessel trust, cestui trust, as the trust was set up to benefit the living spirit within the body of a man and not for the benefit of anyone else, government, corporations, or your strawman. You, the living man, are the beneficiary of the trust. The trust being made up of a number of parties, including you, your vessel, the state, and commonwealth governments. The strawman is your debtor. Because the living man is not to own anything, we have to use and we have use and possession as good stewards. This is because in 1933, lawful money went away with the bankruptcy. As a result, there was no way to truly pay for anything and take ownership of it. All we can do is have title to it. It is the job of your vessel, agent in commerce, acting as a trustee to the trust, and whatever assets are being accumulated by the trust is controlled by the trustee, your strawman, for you as the beneficiary. You are therefore the holder in due course of the real estate assets held in trust, because the titles are held in the name of you, of your agent in commerce, but the deed is in your possession, and that makes you the holder in due course. It may seem that he is just mimicking words here, but there is a big difference between possession and ownership in law and commerce. Right? Comes back to words again. Right? Possession and ownership in law and commerce. Right? So remember, you're going and you're filing these papers, right, with these people. Okay? You don't have a nationality. Right? Just remember, you don't have a nationality. Because majority of people, it's like Sister Annie said today. Before you even go file some UCC paper, you should be studying nationality for 2 years. Before you go file some UCC anything. So if you haven't been studying for 2 years, and you hear this thing about UCCs and filing something and strawman and $1 million account, and then you start, your heart beating fast and all that, don't even waste your time, because the prerequisite is 2 years studying, serious studying. Like Brother Asir said, you have 8 books out at one time studying. Not the one book studying, like really studying. You have 8 books out at once, and you're reading all of them at once. Between 11 and 4, because that's when, you're getting the drops. Right? That's when pineal's throbbing. Or if you do music, doing music between the hours of 11 and 4 a.m. So something else is going on during those times. The UCC is the longest and most elaborate of the Uniform Acts. The code has been a long-term joint project of the National Conference of Commissioners on Uniform State Laws, NCC USL, and the American Law Institute, nicknamed Ali, right? Who began drafting its first version in 1942. Judge Herbert Goodrich, was the chairman of the editorial board of the original 1952 edition, and the code itself was drafted by some of the top legal scholars in the United States. So Herbert Funk Goodrich, Dean of the University of Pennsylvania Law School and a judge of the Third Circuit Court of Appeals. He was director of American Law Institute, which has shaped American law through the restatements. He also chaired the commission that reorganized the state's county relief system into the Department of Public Assistance. So the guy, right, who helped put together the UCC codebook, right, he had a part in the commission that reorganized the state's county relief system, right, county, right, relative to the people, right, not the corporations, into the Department of Public Assistance, which is the corporate activity now that's, you know, giving all these sisters a check per child, right, that they're signing up for, right. William Schnatter, active in creating the Uniform Commercial Code, dedicated nearly 20 years of his life to the organization, earned him the title Father of the Uniform Commercial Code. Grant Gilmore, the world of commercial law, and within it contract law, was largely the product of the Industrial Revolution. It was created quite rapidly, outlined in little more than half a century. Initially, for legal greats like Justice Story, there was no separate theory of contracts. Rather, there was specialized bodies of law that had been developed to address the various needs of the Industrial Revolution. Gilmore alleges that rather than contract coming first and the various specialities being developed afterwards, it actually was the opposite, where contract enveloped pre-existing specialties like negotiable instruments and sales, right? And remember, all of this has to do with them taking away the power of the people and putting it in a commercial venue. And then have the people chase what they're supposed to be doing as nationals. They're trying to get that in a commercial venue that was created by, you know, Europeans. And then say, oh yeah, do the fist that they're for their people, when they're giving their fiat that they claim they don't have to the slave master to try to be free, because he set up this system based on our system, which had nothing to do with filing anything, right? Do your research on the morals and commerce throughout Europe, throughout the world, the morals and commerce in the Philippines, the morals and commerce in, you know, Mansa Musa, you know, research Punt, Queen of Sheba, trade, commerce. And they weren't filing no papers with anybody to engage in commerce. Right? Why? Because the commerce was them. Right? Just like, why were the Moors the navigators of the seven seas? You know, why is docking a boat called mooring? Because they were that. They weren't people on a boat sailing somewhere. They were navigation. Just like they said, William Schneider is the father of the commercial code. Right? That they use. And again, not saying that it can't be used, but you're going to go study that for yourself. Nobody's going to put you on to file in some paper, right? So that you're able to whatever. Another thing that Sister Anita was saying was when you file the UCC one, depending on where you file, would depend on what jurisdiction that filing falls in, whether domestic or international. So you get caught up going and filing some papers talking about you're sovereign, but your jurisdiction is domestic, you're not sovereign because the state's been dissolved. Right? Now there was one site that I ran into, right, that kind of gives it a little bit more for you to consider, right? And this is a little excerpt from the site called "Regarding the Straw Man" by Gregory Allen. Gregory Allen, A-L-L-A-N, right? Question: if a straw man exists, even in people's minds or on paper, and if the relationship between the real man and the straw man is based on deception, then isn't accepting the straw man for value the same as agreeing to continue a lie and to be obligated to that lie? Right? So he's a UCC one filing debunker, right? And you know, the commercial redemption process doesn't work basher, right? So he goes hard at them, right, on his website. Answer: congratulations, you answered that one for yourself. Question: if the straw man is a fiction, doesn't that mean he isn't real? If he isn't real, doesn't that mean that he doesn't exist? Then why are we talking about a straw man? Right? Common sense, logic, right? If the straw man is a fiction, so remember, we're not talking about us in society now, because now somebody's making some claim against that straw, and you're going to go court to go deal with this thing, right? Okay, so you're going to go to court based on you filing this paper, right? This is how you know that this game is rigged, because not everybody gets locked up, right? And majority of the people who don't get locked up, it's because they have a nationality. So they're not putting it like that, right? They're not going to let that part of it out. That they weren't standing on uniform commercial code to beat that case. They were standing on some type of birthright to beat that case. Because why? Because if the straw man is a fiction, right? So you're going in the court saying that you claimed a fiction that isn't real. So it's a fiction and it's not real. And if it's not real, then it doesn't exist. And they're asking you, is this all capital letters you? And you're saying, no, that's not me. And then you're saying, I made a claim on that, that's my property. That's why you get 730. Because you're talking about a crazy person if they're claiming something that's a fiction. How are you going to claim something that's a fiction and think that, you know, nobody's not going to notice or whatever? You're claiming a fiction. Straw man's a fiction. So they got people to the level where they're claiming something that doesn't exist. So if the straw man doesn't exist, because it's a fiction, then that means anything tied to it is a fraud, a fiction, a semblance, colored. So if everything's colored, that means You're in contempt of court if you try to discharge a debt with nothing. Because Constitution says that all debts must be paid with gold and silver, not by discharging. And if you discharge it, it didn't really get discharged. The debt's still there. Because you paid nothing with it. Why is it nothing? Because it's created off of fiction. The $1 billion account is a fiction. It's not a real account with $1 billion bullion in it. It's a fraud. It's a credit system, which is a fiction. Right? You don't give me some credit in my glass, please. You don't have nothing to put in there. Because it's a fiction. It's not really having something. It's an illusion being used to deceive the masses into thinking that they have something when they've really been broke all their life. It's like a boy been telling people, it's like trafficant been saying, right? Can't pay a debt with a debt. And most people haven't been paid in their entire life. Because for their entire life, all they've traded is fiat notes. They don't know what real money is. Right? So if the straw man is a fiction, doesn't that mean he isn't real? If he isn't real, doesn't that mean that he doesn't exist? Then why are we talking about a straw man? Yes, for the same reason that the news media reports stories of little or no significance just to keep you confused. It is so very, very important to your masters that you never figure out the real answers. Worse yet, the commercial redemption process involves commercial instruments, which use the banking system and the U.S. Treasury. The last process we saw, which used similar tactics, was put forth by the Montana Freemen and resulted in many of our own friends going to prison. I do not believe that their procedure was valid, but even if it was, they were not able to convince a jury. They were not able to turn public opinion in their favor. Right or wrong, they were prosecuted. We expect prosecution in our quest for freedom. Many of us are willing, if necessary, to go to prison for that right. But who wants to go to prison for being wrong? That's from Gregory Allen. And then you could just do your research on Montana freedmen. Right? So we have this issue of people not understanding that status is the first issue at law. Right? So Drew Ali told the Moors, or asked the Moors, what is your nationality? Moorish American. How did the Prophet begin to uplift the Moorish Americans? By teaching them to be themselves. Right? In propria persona, in one's own proper person. It is a rule in pleading that pleas to the jurisdiction of the court must be pled in propria persona, because if pleaded by an attorney, they admit the jurisdiction, as an attorney is an officer of the court, and he is presumed to plead after having obtained leave which admits the jurisdiction. Okay? So, in propria persona. Now we go to inalienable, not subject to alienation. The characteristic of those things which cannot be bought or sold or transferred from one person to another, such as rivers and public highways and certain personal rights, example, liberty. Right? So when you talk to most of these people who's filing UCCs and whatever like that, another theme that you'll find in their speech is liberty. So if you're standing up for liberty, which is a personal right, which means it's inalienable, and inalienable things are things which cannot be bought or sold or transferred. How are you convinced that you could claim a straw man, them transfer it out of their possession into your possession so you can claim it, but then claim that you have the right to do something because you have this straw in your possession? Right? It's talking about rights, it's talking about being free, it's talking about liberty, but you're paying and transferring, right? Which means that you're in error. Because if you're talking about rights, you're talking about things that cannot be bought, sold, or transferred. Don't forget, they're not in the wrong, because that's their jurisdiction. You're the one that went over there filing papers to try to get something. And what you receive, right, the so-called benefits that you get, being able to discharge debts, being able to do whatever it is that you do once you file that paper, that benefit is really and truly, right, that benefit really and truly is a piece of the right that you have if you're national. So why not just be national? Right? Why dance around Noble Drew Ali for? Right? You can't dance around Noble Drew Ali. You know what I mean? He's not getting the killer crossover. It ain't happening. Right? It's not happening. Right? Now, we'll go here too, just so that you can see the difference in the status. So, when we look up in propria persona, it talks about being in one's own proper person, right? And Noble Drew Ali making the statement to the Moors that, he came to teach us to be ourselves, right? Be ourselves is equivalent to in propria persona. Once we choose not to go the route of the Prophet by proclaiming your free national name, right? You fall under the status of civil iter mortuus. So civil iter mortuus, civilly dead, dead in the view of the law. The condition of one who has lost his civil rights and capacities and is accounted dead in law. Being a sovereign not connected to a nation that's legitimate, like saying black sovereign, African sovereign, whatever, right? You're putting yourself in the status of civil iter mortuus, which again is civilly dead, right? Dead in the view of the law, the condition of one who has lost his civil rights and capacities, lost them, and is accounted dead in law, right? Is accounted dead in law. So again, we explain the status of black. No majority taught the Moors means death. According to science, right? Because being black casts you into the status of civiliter mortus, which means civilly dead, right? Jurisprudence, which is the science that treats positive law, is what Noble Drew Ali was referring to when he said that black, according to science, means death. Because people have this idea that because Moors say that we're not black, that we don't want to help our people. Right? People have this idea that because Moors say, you know, black is a tag, and they get defensive when people start talking about their black people and whatever, always correcting them and all that, that we have a problem with, you know, being gentle and kind and whatever to our people. No, we just don't mess with stateless people. So if you want to get respected, then stop calling yourself something that you're not. Simple. That's just like, you know, this sister trying to convince me that tribes are superior to nations. I'm like, find me some treaty done with a tribe that didn't get violated, right? Yeah, everything got violated that was done with the tribes, right? And it's not that the things laid down by nations don't get violated, but when the things by nations get violated, it's not on the people who are being violated, it's on them. That means they're the ones that are proving unworthy. Like when they say constitutional inferiority, psychopathic constitutional inferiority, right? People who don't want to go with the supreme law of the land, because the supreme law of the land is the only thing that's really left. But these codes and all that stuff ain't gonna help you. The only thing left that we have as our shield against these people when they start abusing our rights isn't go file some paper to go be free. It's enforce the Constitution. But once again, because you can't get around, you can't deep the profit, right? You better have a nationality before you start enforcing something on somebody. Because as soon as they realize that you don't have a nationality, they'll take your head. And I bring it back to the example again of last night with the brother. Brother done good time. He's not no stranger to them. Right? He's not no stranger to them. And he said he's Moorish American, and they left him alone. They left him alone. And you know, that's not the only example. There's hundreds, thousands of Moors out there that will have your jaws on the floor if they tell you some stuff what they went through with regard to this nationality and birthright. That was a positive that you're never going to hear about unless they talk about it or unless you're sincere enough for them to tell you. The majority of Moors that are active and that study, they know, right, what's going on out here. You know what I mean? Right? For me, like the Ali Muhammad debate, that's something fun to just do. Because if these people are going to be clapping for black sovereignty or whatever, whether I win or lose the debate, it ain't nothing changing because people don't support anyways. So there's just some stuff to do. You know what I mean? There ain't nothing serious like that. Like, if I lose, I'm gonna turn in everything and hang up the charter. What are you talking about? Because of these guys, these black guys? Come on, yo. Right? It ain't that we don't have a score to settle, because, Moore's would go in on them. All of these guys, right? But, a lot of Moors on that level, let the dead bury the dead. Because that's really where we're at with this, right? If you can show people, like how we just went through this class, and we send this class out, right? Or black sovereignty being a fraud, proclaiming your nationality. Those people are gonna, some might jump on, because we did get a email, right? Oh, you guys' stuff isn't as good as what Polite says, and his stuff's better than your stuff or whatever. And we ask simple question, we just ask simple question. And she herself said, you know what? I think I'm gonna hold out a second on this guy. So it's not that the people are dumb, you know what I mean? They just get stimulated easily. And then once they get stimulated, then vampires on their neck, or in their pockets, or whatever vampires do nowadays, because, you're not jumping on people's necks no more. They found a new way to get the energy, right? So it's apparent, and, we seriously hope that it's real clear. We're not saying don't do UCCs, don't look at it, don't study it, it's the devil, don't deal with it. We're not saying none of that. We're saying before you even consider that, you better be well versed and grounded in nationality and birthrights before you even consider even looking at a UCC filing 1 form. Go look at the form. If you don't have 2 years dealing with nationality and birthright study, serious study, 9 books on the table studying, not the 1 book and then get a book over there, 9 books. Your library have books stacked up, people wondering who's this crazy man with all these books, right? Studying like that, and we know already that some people aren't, not that, it's a negative, but some people aren't worthy. So, they're not going to take it that serious. But the ones who want to take this serious, and you really go to the library, stack 7 books on the table with your fez on, and see what happens. Let's try it out. See what happens. Right? Right? See how the energy around you shifts, that you have space. And everybody, and you can hear a pin drop and stuff like that. Sometimes you might get a little chatter when you go there, but you strap your fez on, go to the library, get, and don't, when I say go get books, I'm not talking about go get, Dr. Ben books and crap like that, right? Go get all the law dictionaries and all the code dictionaries and whatever else dealing with law that they have in there, Constitution books or whatever, and pack them up, and you do some studying, right? And look at the energy of the whole library change. Everybody turns studious all of a sudden. Why? Because everybody's following the footprints of the Moors. It's not even a secret. People waiting for us to step back up. Waiting. but we don't want to step up. We want to keep playing belief and faith when it's fruition time right now. You know what I mean? Fruition time right now. You will it and manifest it, or don't even go there, right? And to put one out there also for people who aren't in the chat, your first and last liberty is to think. Your only right is to act. Right? We close out on that one. So Islam to all the Moors worldwide. We had about 15, 16 viewers tonight. As we got the chat full as usual. 9:01, you already know. 9:30, Blog Talk Radio. Moorish Heritage and History School, eyes wide open. That's going to be going down 9:30 to whenever they get off the line, because those Moors go in. They go hard all night. They be on the phone, right? So stay strong, Moors. Continue to build. Continue to know thyself, because you're the only one that's going to do it. You know what I mean? And the best way to do it is study what Noble Drew Ali brought. Don't worry about it says Allah and it says Jesus and it says these things that we kind of cast away because we're conscious now. So you know what I mean? Because we're conscious now. We can't say the word Jesus because then we'll be going against. No, go watch some Abdullah Bay, right? Come back again to it, and you'll be all right. Oh yeah, and that's moorishciviletter.net, MOORISHCIVILETTER, moorishciviletter.net, and reconnect with your sciences that you lost, and take nationality and birthright serious, because it's a great time right now to be Moors, and it's a great time to be affiliated with Moors. So we'll close out with the prayer and get ready for, and big up Brother Fresh for the shirt, from the weekend. We didn't start from the bottom, we started from the bottom because we've been here. 5 on the left, 2 on the right. Allah, the Father of the universe, Father of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Allah is my protector, my guide, and my salvation, by night and by day, through His holy prophet, Noble Drew Ali, Islam. Peace and Hotep Moors, Islam to all the Moors worldwide. And YouTube's even censoring people from saying stuff now. Islam Moors, peace and love. Catch you at 9:30.